Hi, everybody. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
And on this Camp Report Show, we have a very special report because we have gone from the East Coast to the West Coast and all over the United States to find out the information about the hurricanes which hit last week right here in the eastern part of the United States. Bob, we've talked to people from virtually every different aspect of the RV and camping industry, haven't we?
We have, and it's incomprehensible the level of death, damage, and destruction caused by this storm. And we've collected a lot of information that we'll have for you in this show, and we're going to continue to stay on the topic with as much information to make sure that we're covering it the right way and with the right people.
So stay with us. We've got all the information for you right here. Where, Bob?
On the Camper Report Show.
Attention all RVers. Say goodbye to roof worries and hello to worry-free travel with RV Roof Magic. This revolutionary liquid butyl roof coating is specially formulated to protect your RV from the elements, to extend its lifespan and prevent leaks. With simple application and outstanding results, RV Roof Magic is the go-to choice for RV owners seeking superior roof protection. Don't let roof maintenance issues hold you back. RV Roof Magic is the only liquid butyl rubber in the world that offers a one-coat, no-primer coverage and a 10-year warranty. Visit rvroofmagic.com/RVLife and extend your roof another 18 to 20 years.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Camp Report Show. My name is John DePietro, and it's a very special show today because we're going to give you in-depth coverage of all that's happening, going from Florida to, gotta make sure I get my geography right, Bob Zagami, from Florida to Georgia to South Carolina to North Carolina to Virginia and Tennessee, and talk about what the hurricane has done to our camping friends and RV friends. How about you, Bob? This is a
It's we're
unprecedented time.
putting a request out to everybody that we know along that route to see if we can get some assessments, and it's devastating. The early responses are just that. They just don't even know how to explain what has taken place down there, especially in Western North Carolina. It looks like that is the worst area, but we've had some communications with people in North Carolina, and we're going to address a lot of those here in this special show.
Yep, exactly. You know what? We've been online all morning and covering all the social media sites. And this one person called Grand Adventure has written the following, where I asked about anybody who's been in that area of Western North Carolina. And here's what he wrote. We're nearly there now. We evacuated the Wilkesboro Boone area. Now, Boone is another city in Western North Carolina that you've been hearing about quite a bit on for safety in Winston-Salem on Thursday afternoon, which in hindsight turned out to be a good call. On Sunday, we moved onto the Tennessee side of the mountains, and we're now located just south of where I-40 is closed. And we should say this, I-40 is not just closed, it doesn't exist. It has
Right.
been washed away.
Portions of it washed away. Yeah.
3 or 4 miles worth of it. The campground we're located in is flooded but sustained no structural damage. Crews are outside my window right now, busy cleaning up and rebuilding their roads. All cell service is down throughout the area, and the campground's Wi-Fi, normally good fiber optic, is spotty. We can't use my Starlink as we're under a forest canopy. So that brings up another interesting thing because, we've talked for years about being connected while you're at a campground. And, Travelify and Starlink have come out, which are supposed to revolutionize the industry. But, when Mother Nature has other plans, things sure change, don't they?
They do. And thankfully, when we have tragedies and natural disasters like this, people respond accordingly. And they're getting a lot of support, people coming into the area, supplies coming into the area. The challenge is going to be how to get all of that relief to the right people as quickly as possible, because there are people down there who, as of right now, still have not had electricity or water or food
Yep.
or any emergency care for 4 days. So
Yep.
It's a tragic situation. We'll cover it the best that we can and keep you posted on all that information.
Yep. One more story I just want to read to you that we're talking about, like you just mentioned, without internet, without phone service. And, the fear is that something's happened to them because how many hundreds are still missing? Like 400?
Over 600,
Over
but that
600
seems to
people
be
are still
going up
missing.
quickly also.
Okay. Again, one of my queries online earlier today was this, and this person responded, the only way, now I'm in Ohio, this is what this person writes, I got in touch with dear friends in Asheville, is because the husband happened to be in Spain. He got one text and is now trying to get home, but he knows there's no way to get up to their house, and his son is trying to cut a road through the woods. I don't expect to hear from them for quite a while unless they can find a ham radio operator whose mobile unit is still working. While I'm sure cell service is a priority, cell service, not self-service. Remember, there needs to be towers on top of those mountains, and many of those hilltops are now washed aside down the side of the hills. That's what happened on I-40 between the Tennessee border and Asheville. So we're going to be talking with Ben Quiggle. I know we've got Ben coming up later in this segment. And also, we had an interesting conversation with Allie Rasmussen from, what's the name of her company?
Spacious Skies
Right.
Camp. I always want to put two P's there, but Allie's a good resource. Yeah.
All coming up right here. Hey everyone, welcome back to our show. And normally this is the time during our show when we give you the news, and we kind of have some funny stories and we kind of have some serious stories. But today, actually, you can see on screen, it's a little bit different than normal. And in addition to Bob Zagami, who is on your screen, we have a very special guest. Her name is Allie Rasmussen, and Allie is the chairwoman of the board of Spacious Skies Campground. And the reason we're here, Allie, welcome back. We normally have you on in update, what's new going on. The springtime is here, the fall is here, you've got a brand new campground, but you'd have to be under a rock in the last week to not know what has gone on throughout most of the eastern portion of our country, all the way from Florida, where Bob is, up to almost Cincinnati, Ohio, with the hurricane. And you own a collection of 14 properties, and at least 3, if not 4 of them were impacted by that. And you know what? We're happy to report that at least in your properties, there were no loss of life and things will come back. But as a campground owner, Bob, maybe you want to chip in here as well, but as a campground owner, this has gotten to be a extremely stressful week because you're in Middle Atlantic, and most of the hurricane stories that we hear are based upon campgrounds in Fort Myers, Florida, or Naples, Florida, or whatever. Bob, before Allie responds, anything you want to add to that?
I think it's difficult for everybody right now, more so for Allie and her Spacious Skies Campground host of facilities. I mean, the damage that we saw last week, the only thing I can describe it as is incomprehensible unless you were there and on the ground and seriously impacted. And Allie, we wanted to kind of do a little bit of a journey with you.
From an owner's perspective.
Yeah, from the owner, what was going through your mind as the hurricane developed and as you realized it was going to probably impact some of your campgrounds? And let's take us through there, and we'll kind of walk through the whole process to where you are today and how you're responding.
Yes, and thanks for having me on to tell a story that is not unique to me or unique to Spacious Skies, not unique to multi-campground owners. It's impacting, importantly, most of all, I think, our individual campground owners who have, less of a support system. So I need to acknowledge that, that we are very lucky that we have this team, we have, the resources that we can tap into, and we're very lucky that everybody was marked safe from our team members, and and from our guests as well. So like my body is covered in chills when I say that, because that was really the biggest worry when it was all going down. But our campgrounds are not unfamiliar with having to deal with natural disasters, with hurricanes or floods. We experienced some serious ones, just this past season down in Savannah and up in the Adirondacks, where we have a campground on the river. But for this hurricane, we were preparing all last week and following the weather reports and making sure that our teams were prepared with enough supplies and preparing the guests and making sure that, we were getting ahead of any arrivals that were going to be impacted, making sure that our long-term guests were all prepared to, lose utilities for however amount of time. But we just could say again.
Did you have enough warning did any of your parks have to evacuate? Because I think that we tend to look at campgrounds as a place of solitude and comfort and enjoyment of the outdoors. And it's got to be a terrible shock to campers that may not have gone through this type of experience. But how did you communicate with your campers, and did you have to evacuate anybody?
Yes, so we did not lose touch with our team members on the ground until late Thursday or early Friday. It's hard to remember because it's just been minute by minute, but we had those team members on the ground communicating directly with the guests that were on site. And we have a remote camper care team that was handling the phones portion of that, especially for the incoming arrivals. But as far as evacuations were concerned, we had again, Thursday or Friday, hard to remember, we had gotten word from the county that 2 of our properties are out in Western Carolina, that they were recommending that we evacuate. It was not a mandatory evacuation at that time. And so we communicated that out. And a lot of folks, made the decision to stay on property. And of course, our team members were going to stay on property as well to stay at their posts.
Yeah.
So that was before the actual impact started to really be felt. I think you've probably seen on the news that just the rain that came before the actual hurricane passed through was really a major source of just all the damage and disaster that we saw with just the ground moving and all of that.
Especially when you're in a mountainous situation, the rain can only go to one place, down.
That's right.
We've always said that not too long ago in New England, there was 6 inches of rain in Vermont, and it flooded 5 or 6 cities on the Connecticut River. But the same rain fell in Connecticut, but it was dispersed over flat land.
Right.
Were there surprises as far as, did the storm turn at any one point where it made a major impact on your properties? And maybe we should tell people what the properties are, because they can go to your site, spaciousskiescampgrounds.com.
Yes.
And notice them. But what do we have? Bell Ridge, Bear Den, and Hidden Creek were the 3 big ones, right?
Actually, it was Bear Den, Hidden Creek, and Peach Haven as the biggest ones that are still feeling the impacts. Bear Den especially. Savannah Oaks was also impacted, but we had some large trees uprooted. But power and utilities and services came back on, and we were not worried about access in and out. Same goes with Peach Haven as far as access into the property and out of the property. Hidden Creek was a bit more of an effort, but we got there. Peach Haven, Hidden Creek, still waiting for services to return. However, Bear Den, just its location on the actual Blue Ridge Parkway is why we are dealing with a lot more there than the rest of our campgrounds that were impacted.
were there actually mountains falling down?
You know, from what I have seen on like the news coverage, a lot of land was moving. We have only been able to receive photos from our team members on the ground, and it's a miracle that we can at all because power and Wi-Fi are hard to come by. There's one work camper on Bear Den's property whose phone happens to be connecting to their provider. It is not the internet.
How close, how close are any of them to Asheville, which seemed to have been a major impact point? I mean, it's a devastation. It's
Yes.
difficult to just watch the video, never mind being there. And some of these areas in Western North Carolina, the roads are wiped out. There is no way in or out. So how close were some of your properties to Asheville, or have you talked to other campground owners in that area?
We are about 45 minutes to an hour, you know, on a good day from Asheville, from both of those properties. And we have been, you know, in touch with other campground owners in the area, and of course, following all of the forums on Facebook. And it seems like there's the variety of, you know, just a wide variety of how everybody was impacted. Some folks are really back up and running very quickly in that specific area, and some are washed away. And that's
Gone.
we sit somewhere in the middle with Bear Den. Bear Den is in Spruce Pine, which is a town I never heard of before we owned Bear Den, and now it's on the news. So that is one of those mountain towns that has been, you know, visited, now is being visited regularly by the National Guard, by search and rescue teams, which we are so appreciative of. And finally, our teams have been able to get in and out of the campground itself. It's just getting out of Spruce Pine is
one of the things
the
that's
next challenge.
involved that we've seen with some of the news media, we have to hope that as a country and as a society, we don't forget the storm. You know, John pointed out when we were talking this morning, you know, this isn't 9/11 in New York. This isn't a wildfire that takes out half of California. And those seem to be in the news every day. What we don't, we term in, you know, the RV industry, the outdoor hospitality industry, is we cannot let this just go past and on to the next. This is going to be a 10, 20-year repair. And so we, you know, it's necessary to keep that. How do we do that?
Well, that's a great question. I think that, you know, right now,
I should have asked John that because he's the media expert. So
you are the media expert, John. But I do know that, you know, CARVIC, the Carolina Association of, you know, RV campground owners, OHI, who is the outdoor hospitality industry national group that we all know, you know, both associations have been extremely active. OHI Foundation is accepting donations, and you know, they are offering support to those campground owners that, you know, have nothing or just are really dealing with catastrophe before them. Not to say that we are not, but again, I have to be grateful for what we do have, which is a team and a network and a collection of resources behind us.
What do you think, John, from the media aspect? If you were sitting behind the desk, how do you do this?
Well, see, the thing is this, from the media perspective, they're not used to going out into the sticks. Okay, they're hollers out there. You know, I don't even know what a holler is, but I know that there's hollers where these people live, and you know, it's not like you're 20 miles outside of New York City, up in the Catskills. Okay, but the thing is this: the difference in the damage from one property to another is absolutely amazing. I went on social media this morning and I asked on several forums, and interestingly, Allie, who would ever think that our news source for finding out if people are alive or dead is Facebook?
But
Okay.
it is.
So I went into the RV Life, I went into RV Tips and a couple of the other RV full-time living with kids. Okay, which is
Mhm.
a totally separate thing. And one person wrote back saying, we were at the hitching post in Chimney Rock, Lake Lure, which I guess is North Carolina. Okay, but we got out in time, quote unquote, just barely. We got flash flood warnings the night before, and we left at the crack of dawn. Water was already coming across the roads from the mountains when we left, and the roads were closing behind us. By the time we got to Myrtle Beach, everything was gone. I don't think many people left when that warning came through, though, as we didn't see many cars on the road at that time. It's a lot to process. And she said, I don't want any more interviews after that. That's what I'll tell you. But like you said, you're in goosebumps talking
Yeah.
about this. And you were one of the lucky owners, but some of these other properties you see the pictures of that are just, there was one park that lost 3 rows of campsites that were next to the river with these giant trees, these giant oak, whatever they were, gone. And there was one couple that said when they were driving, when they were trying to escape, before they left, they had the peace of mind because the guy used to live in Biloxi,
Mhm.
the Alabama shore. He filled both his freshwater tanks and kept his gray water tanks full so that they could, what am I trying to say? For weight, so they wouldn't blow
Oh, yeah.
off the road. But
Something, something that I saw, which is developing, and I'm wondering if it's how it's going to get down to the campground owners, but some of the campgrounds like yours are going to have availability or open spots. And somebody suggested that with all the influx of electrical workers, first responders, they're going to need some place to stay while they work this out. So is there an organized effort through the California campground, I mean, the Carolina Campground Association or OHI? Do you think that was an isolated conversation, or is there any effort underway by our associations to make such accommodations available?
I think that it makes perfect sense for the associations to be able to assist in being a communication, midway between those workers and the campgrounds that have availability or just exist in general. We have on our own channels put up that messaging. We are stating that for anybody who is displaced or in the area providing relief and recovery efforts, that we have sites and it will be boondocking until the utilities come back. But we have those sites at Peach Haven and at Hidden Creek. And we have already welcomed, I want to say 15 or 20 Serve Pro professionals to our Hidden Creek location who are going to be working in the area for quite some time, I imagine.
Yep.
So that is happening as we speak, and we are, ready to take those folks in who are going to be providing those efforts.
Yep. One of the other things that I saw this morning come through on one of the Facebook groups was that Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee, which is right, that Tennessee,
Right on the line,
North
Main
Carolina
Street, on
line.
one side of Main Street is
Yep.
Virginia, one side is Tennessee.
Yep. But they're not that close to it. But again, not that far away either. But they've got at a speedway, they've got giant campsites, and they said they are offering free accommodations for any of the salvage work. I shouldn't say salvage, but the rescue workers that are coming that will then get into school buses and go as far as they can to begin the recovery process, the
Right.
recovery and restoration. But Allie, as you see this now that you've got one of these under your belt, anything that, again, we're still in the middle of it. We're not looking back on it yet. We're still looking it straight in the eye. Anything that you say, gee, I wish we had more warning of this, or I wish we went this way instead of that way. Is there anything that immediately comes to mind?
No, actually, there is nothing that comes to mind because our teams were in sync with our, central Leadership. They were providing as lifetime information as they could. When communications went down, they went above and beyond to seek signal to contact us. From the other way around, our central team was providing direction, and we were following our protocols that we had already put in place for natural disasters. I think that it just goes above and beyond what you'll see even in a normal bad natural disaster. This is really over the top. I think that the main challenges that we're seeing are things like fuel shortages in the area.
Yep.
Or large swaths of interstate and roadway being shut down for either washout or because of those fuel shortages and because of not wanting to have any sort of influx of additional bodies into the area. So it's like those regional challenges that are making this more difficult. But again, like, our team members are acting on their feet and with bravery. The National Guard and the search and rescue teams, I mean, we have seen them already multiple times daily. So their presence is felt. We could not have, I don't think we could have planned any better.
One of the things that is really going to be interesting to see, and we've seen it with natural disasters in other parts of the world, but not necessarily here. I mean, I can envision, especially in these areas that are totally cut off, no roads to get in. I can imagine an airplane drop with a C-5A or something going in at the low altitudes and dropping off those pallets of food and water and things that they have. I mean, who would have ever thought that we would see that in this country? I think as a society, we have no clue what's ahead of us. I mean, this is such an unknown.
It is an unknown. And this area in particular is, populated by really fiercely independent people. People choose to live in this area because of like the benefits of whatever they are getting from this type of isolation and this type of just like rugged independence. It is just like part of the fabric of the culture there. And so I think that also lends itself to the additional challenges that we're facing.
Well, Allie, I know that you've got a million things to do. We want to thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to join us. Stay tuned here because we will be bringing you updates all along as how things come back to normal, not only at the Spacious Skies campgrounds all over the East Coast, but at the other properties that are going to take much more time to recover. We're going to take a break right now.
Yeah,
we'll be back.
We'll have Allie back in a
Yes,
month, so as we see the whole thing play out. And Allie, we appreciate you taking time this morning. We know you got a million other things that you could be doing rather than talking to John and I. Although that's not too bad, but let's make the best of it, and we're here to help you where we can.
Thanks for having me and for letting me tell this part of the story.
And we'll be back with more right after these messages.
Hey there, RVers. We get it. Your insurance and warranty needs are as unique as your travel destinations. That's why RVer Insurance has teamed up with Wholesale Warranties to cover all the bases. From health insurance to RV coverage and warranties, we've got you sorted every step of the way. With a solid track record in providing top-notch health insurance and affordable RV insurance options, RV Insurance has you covered. And for those unexpected repair bills, look no further than our friends at Wholesale Warranties, leaders in reliable coverage and customer support. Start your RV protection journey today at rverinsurance.com or wholesalewarranties.com/RVerinsurance.
So we want to welcome Mr. Ben Quiggle, the editor-in-chief of Woodall's Campground Magazine, with us, Ben, for this very special show. I know that you've been losing a lot of sleep over the last few days, trying to figure out what's going on. And I guess in all the time that you and I have both been covering the industry, probably nothing as catastrophic as this has ever happened. Would I be correct in assuming that?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of that would be close would be that hurricane a couple of years ago, and I can't think of the name of it, that wiped out like the red coconut in Florida, which was a
Ian.
really historic old campground.
Yeah,
And
Ian.
then,
I think it was
yeah,
Ian, if it
yeah,
was
maybe.
years ago. Because
Yeah, and now they're building apartments where that campground used to
oh,
sit.
ironically, it was 2 years to the week that this hurricane came through Florida. And
Yeah,
as we talk here, I think all of the original ideas were going to be that we're going to be talking about disasters in Florida again, but who
yeah,
thought that we'd be really focusing our attention to the mountains of Western North Carolina? And
yeah.
you're speaking to us from Colorado at a glamping conference, far away from the scene, but it's certainly been the chatter of the breaks there from the glamping people owners, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think people here have been definitely talking about it. There are definitely some people who couldn't make it because the travel was impacted or they had some issues, with the home where they live or their businesses. We had one guy on my panel yesterday that actually owns a park in North Carolina, and his park suffered minor damage, and he was still able to make it out to the show. But yeah, I mean, Western North Carolina and Tennessee, there's some parks in Tennessee that have got hit really hard. And I mean, the Florida parks, there are definitely some Florida parks that suffered damage. But I mean, the majority of the really severe damage seems to be, especially in North Carolina and Tennessee, where there are just numerous parks that are completely just gone.
Right.
So wiped out.
And it appears, as you had mentioned, that the North Carolina campground owner was still able to make it to your convention, but it
Yeah,
seems as though there's either minor damage or total devastation, like you had referenced the Cherokee KOA. Now,
yeah,
the interesting part about this is that the ironic part of the campground ownership status is that some parks are owned by large corporations that have multiple parks, and some are owned by families.
yeah.
And the amount of insurance that they had or their capability to come back is really dependent on, place by place, right, Ben?
Yeah, and I mean, like some of these, like the Cherokee, it's the Jonesboro Cherokee KOA Journey, which was owned by a couple, and then the Mountain Stream RV Park, or those are the two that come to mind. That's owned by another family. I mean, they're completely wiped out, and then they're going to have to obviously sort through all the insurance mess. But on some of these, it's hard to imagine what level of work's going to have to be done in order to bring these parks back back into operation. I mean, the photos that we see from Cherokee are just devastating. I mean, the river just washed away the entire park, and it's very unfortunate for these families. And I know the industry is trying to help them recover from this. They have a GoFundMe page for the Cherokee KOA journey that people can access, and then the Ojai Foundation is raising money to help support park owners who have suffered damage or are completely wiped out by the hurricane.
Yeah.
So,
And it also is ironic that, not ironic, but the death toll hasn't really been restricted to camp. In other words, the death toll goes well beyond the campgrounds. And I don't know, have we gotten figures yet as to death toll from campgrounds only in the area, or is that number still too hard to reach at this
I
stage?
don't know if I know one death happened at a campground, I believe, but I know they're still looking for people in the mountains. So people who haven't been found yet. So unfortunately, the death toll could go up due to these hurricanes. I mean, it's just amazing. It hit in the Bend area of Florida, but the flooding and the amount of rain it dumped as it progressed across the state seemed to get worse. So,
Yep, absolutely worse. So Ben Quiggle, I know you've got a conference to go to. You've got to moderate a couple of seminars coming up very soon. We want to thank you for getting up especially early for this interview. And just like Woodall's and RV Business, we will also be working together to bring the most up-to-date information on campground situations in the next few weeks. Ben, thank you so much for being with us.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, for this segment, we've got Bobby Conwell, who is the president and CEO. It's a long name, the Florida Alabama RV Park and Campground Association. So
Got it right.
up in Tallahassee, Florida, and we wanted to get a report from Bobby on what led up to the preparation of the hurricane and what came after that. So I'll shut up and let you give us a rundown, Bobby.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bob. It's always a pleasure being on your show. I wish it was under different circumstances than right now, but
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for having me on. So yes, the storm, and we talked about it. The storm was bad, unexpected, as far as the strength and the devastation that it caused. Especially along the West Coast around Clearwater, Tampa. We saw damages all the way from Fort Myers all the way up the coast, of course, through Cedar Key and to Panacea. So the whole Gulf Coast of Florida was affected. The primary areas were, I guess, Clearwater, Tampa, Homosassa, Florida, got it really bad. Cedar Key, of course, that's probably was the hardest hit, and the Steinhatchee area. So all along the Big Bend there in the North Florida area. But everybody saw the devastation in Tampa and Sarasota and Clearwater as well. Not a whole lot of parks directly right there on the coast, but quite a few that were nearby that did receive damage. But most reports are that they are going to be open soon. The worst hit, and I think the ones that are going to be have the longest road to recovery, is Cedar Key area.
And you got snowbirds coming down, so that activity will be coming. But once the storm hit and you started to communicate with your campgrounds, what have you been able to do for them, and what can you do for them in the future to help them out?
Right. Well, they're used to this, so they have the protocol in place on what to do. Of course, we always encourage them to evacuate. Listen to your county emergency orders. If there's an evacuation, you got to have your park guests leave. It's difficult at times to get everybody out of there, but that is the rule of thumb. So try to evacuate your park. We try to stay in touch with them as much as possible. Let them know ahead of time that we are here to keep us updated after the storm on any damages and or if they are open, hopefully, and what sites they have available. So we try to, be a in-between person to communicate with the emergency service crews, as well as the park owners and operators and campers who are looking to, not only evacuate, but also maybe find another campground if theirs was damaged so they can stay nearby. So we try to stay in contact. It's not always easy. A lot of times electricity is down, phone is down. But once communication lines are back up, we reach out to them and encourage them to reach out to us. So.
Well, you mentioned earlier, this is, yes, it's Florida, and yes, Florida gets hurricanes, but this is 3 in almost 12 months, right? That these same parks have been affected by.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know if that's ever happened. Three hurricanes have gone almost the exact same identical route up the Gulf Coast and then into the Big Bend, Cedar Key area where they make landfall. So unprecedented as far as I know in such a short period of time. This one I think was probably the worst as far as strength and size. Definitely size because it spread out over 500 miles.
Yeah,
so you couldn't get away from it.
Yeah, and ironically, here in the Fort Myers Beach area, this was almost on the second anniversary. It was like a day or two before the second anniversary of Ian doing all that destruction just 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that hit Fort Myers off guard. I know it did Tampa, Clearwater. I think everybody thought they're going to get some storm surge, but it got to levels that nobody was expecting. So
yeah, I know. Over in Fort Myers Beach, they had just done all the reconstruction, put all new sand in all along that whole beach area. It was literally lifted up and pushed over to the main road between Bonita Springs and Fort Myers Beach, and all of it. They were just using all the bulldozers just to try to get it back on the beach.
Yeah,
So
that's what I've seen pictures of seeing. Well, just today, Clearwater, Tampa, all that area. The water's gone, fortunately, but along the coastal roads. It's just mountains and mountains of sand that was pushed out from the ocean. So,
Okay, well, I appreciate you joining us, Bobby. I know it's kind of crazy down there, but we want to make sure that we get the information out to our fans and our viewers in as many places as it can go. It can't be enough given the severity of what this Hurricane Helena left behind. So
well, thank you for having me on. We are trying to keep everybody updated. We're sending, email communications and keep contact open with our members, but we're also posting some park information on our Facebook page so people can go there and look for parks that are damaged, closed, or open and have sites available. It's facebook.com/Camp Florida. If anybody wants to go there and see the latest updates. So
yeah, we'll do an overlay on that for the
okay,
association and your response for people that
perfect.
want to contribute. Bobby, thank you very much, and
Okay, thank you, Bob.
I'll take a ride up to Tallahassee and we can meet under different conditions.
That'd be great.
All
Thank
right.
you. Appreciate it.
Okay, in this segment, we're going to be talking to David Bassler with Ojai, and I'll let you explain that to the people, but you have been at the center of a lot of the recovery activities and the responses. So can you give us a little brief description of Ojai and what you're doing in these troubling times?
Sure, sure. Thanks for having me on, Bob. I appreciate it. Ojai is the national foundation that represents all privately owned RV parks, campgrounds, glamping businesses, outdoor hospitality across the country. And we have more than 3,000 members across the country. But in situations like this, our focus is the industry as a whole, and getting these campgrounds that have been affected some relief and helping them get repairs done, and in some cases, unfortunately, in this situation, rebuild. And you made the comment we're at the center of it. I think one thing I'd like to say there is we're working hand in hand with a lot of great groups. A lot of this destruction has happened in the Carolinas. And the Carolina Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds, and Dee Whitting and her state leaders down there. We've been working with them around the clock to get as much relief to that area as we can. And there's campgrounds in other states in that area as well. It's not a solo effort. It's a come together moment to help these campgrounds out.
When we realized the severity of the storm, I don't think anybody thought that would be as damaging as it was. How much time or when did you put in action your recovery plans or your response plans to all the campground associations that are impacted by it? Take us through.
Sure. I mean, we watch these things coming, obviously, and start preparing for them from days ahead of time. And leading up to the storm, we're prepping for what could be a devastation, and working with the Ojai Foundation. I mean, that's where the Disaster Relief Fund lives, is with the Ojai Foundation. And when we have an event like this, the first thing that we do is reach out to the affected area to let them know what availability they have for relief through that disaster relief fund. They have the campgrounds, any outdoor hospitality business has the opportunity to apply for those funds, and whether they're an Ojai member or not, first of all. And they are grants that are given. They're not loans that have to be repaid back. This is intended to be relief money that can get to those campgrounds quickly for use at their business, for use in providing shelter and food and clothing to victims in their community, their park staff, any of those kinds of things, as they're in the initial stage of the recovery effort. They're waiting on their insurance money to come to them. They're waiting on FEMA potentially. And they need immediate support, this is an opportunity for them to get that with no strings attached, basically.
Great, great. And we're going to be posting up all of that information, and I really appreciate you coming on. So give us the end game to this. What do you want our fans to do? The campgrounds in the Northeast, and I'm sure they're getting the information from Ojai. But our RV dealers that want to take give a donation to this, because the most important thing is to get the campgrounds open again and get the RV travelers heading out and seeing this great country. And it's not going to be an easy task. So what
No.
is your ask of our audience tonight?
Our ask is to get involved. If you're a camper or a dealer or a manufacturer, obviously campgrounds are an important part of the whole cycle of people getting outdoors. Obviously, if you have an RV and there's not a campground to take it to, that's a problem. Our goal and the Ojai Foundation's goal here is to get these campgrounds back up and running so people can get outside and enjoy them. And we've had in from Tennessee all the way down to Florida, and again, most of the damage has been concentrated in Western Tennessee or Eastern Tennessee and Western North Carolina, South Carolina. We've had parks that literally have been wiped off the map. They're completely gone.
We've got photos of that. It is tragic. It is unbelievable.
Parks that have downed trees and damage to buildings and everything in between. So the more money that we can bring in through these donation efforts through the foundation, which is a 501c3, they collect the donations. 100% of the donation goes back out to these campgrounds. It's literally a 100% pass through. So I want people to know that if they want to get involved and they can donate to the foundation's disaster relief fund, that their money's going to help these campgrounds rebuild so that people can get out.
Yep. Well, we're going to cover it on both RVing in New England and also on our Camper Report show, which is the national show. So we've been speaking to David Bassler, Chief Strategy Officer at Ojai. And David, thank you very much. And we're going to stay in touch with you. We'll probably do a follow-up show in a month or so, but God bless you and the people, and we'll send our prayers and hopefully lots of donations, get you guys back on track.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate you helping us get the word out.